Welcome back. My name is Cole Whip, and we are here with episode 3 of the Gun Guide, your no BS one-stop shop to the best guns inside of MWZ. We are kicking this episode off with the MCW with the Jack Raven attachment. Just a reminder that all guns are tested at epic rarity, and we have been filming all of these episodes live on stream, so be sure to check that out, and let's get into the gameplay. This MCW build was recommended by Pods22HB on the last video. If you would like to recommend a weapon to see featured on the Gun Guide, please leave that comment down below. Ammo capacity, you have 480 rounds in reserve, 80 rounds in your magazine. We're going to give it a 5.5 on ammo capacity, nothing more than average. Let's move on to crowd control. Crowd control is so important in a good weapon, and this gun is just tearing through this horde. Yeah, we got a little bit of shatter blast action going on, but this gun can hold its own. It is absolutely deleting this horde of zombies. We are giving this gun an 8.5 out of 10 on crowd control, and let's move on. When it comes to bosses, I have some mixed feelings on this weapon. While we're dealing some okay damage to this non-bounty mega abomination, we did have a fight in this game against a bounty disciple that did give me some concerning issues with this gun. I was not able to fight a bounty mega abomination in this gameplay. There just was not any contracts available, and if you play the game, you certainly understand that. All things considered, I'm going to give this gun a 7.5 out of 10 on bosses. There are definitely weapons out there that do it better, and let's move on to the final rating. The build is up on screen for the MCW with the Jack Raven kit. I'm giving this gun a final rating of 8 out of 10. It is excellent on crowd control. The boss damage is okay, and as long as you have a little bit of extra patience in those boss fights, you are going to get the job done. And let's move on to the M4. When it comes to the M4, ammo capacity is a 10 out of 10. You have 900 rounds in reserve, 120 rounds in your magazine. Let's move on to crowd control. When I was using this gun at just Pack-a-Punch 2, I did not have high hopes for this gun once I did get to Pack 3, but man, was I surprised. This gun took a giant leap forward when it comes to crowd control and killing zombies once I got to Pack-a-Punch 3. For that reason, I'm giving this gun a 9 out of 10 on crowd control, and let's move on to bosses. I had really high hopes for this gun when it came to this fight with this bounty mega abomination, but honestly, the gun let me down a little bit. It is an average weapon. It does okay damage. We're going to give it a 7 out of 10 on bosses, and let's move on to the build and the final rating. This weapon was recommended by Bearded Super Duper Paratrooper. The build is up on screen. The final rating for this gun, we are going to give it an 8 out of 10, similar to the MCW that we just reviewed. This gun does excellent on crowd control. It's got really good ammo capacity. It is held back in boss fights. You have to have a little bit of patience. For that reason, 8 out of 10. And let's move on to the FR Advancer. Ammo capacity for the FR Advancer, 10 out of 10. We loaded this game up with mags of holding, so we have 1,020 rounds to just fire. If you don't have mags of holding, you have 120 rounds in your magazine, 900 rounds in reserve, 10 out of 10. Let's move on to crowd control. I decided to feature this clip of the FR Advancer at epic rarity at Pack-a-Punch 2, and look at it rip through these zombies. 10 out of 10 on crowd control. This gun only gets better at Pack 3 and will only just shred harder at Legendary. Let's move on to bosses. We're giving this gun an 8 out of 10 against bosses. I was just a little disappointed at the extra time that it did take to kill this non-bounty mega abomination. I wasn't able to fight a bounty mega abomination in this game either, and if you caught this game live on stream, you know it had a very unfortunate ending to it. The gun is still very strong against bosses. I was just expecting a smidge better from it. 8 out of 10 on bosses. Let's move on to the build and the final rating. This gun was recommended by Lukey98 on the last video. Please leave your comment down below. Let me know what weapon you want to see featured next on the Gun Guide. The build is up on screen for the FR Advancer. I may have been a little harsh when it came to my boss rating. I'm going to give this gun a 9 out of 10 as an overall rating. This gun absolutely shreds zombies, shreds bosses, and let's move on to the Castoff 7.62. Ammo capacity for Castoff 7.62, 6 out of 10. You're going to have 80 rounds in your magazine. You're going to have 600 rounds in reserve or 680 rounds to just fire if you're using mags of holding. It's an average AR with a very low ammo count for your main magazine without running mags of holding. Let's move on to crowd control. Crowd control was so bad on this gun at Pack-a-Punch 2 Epic Rarity in the Tier 3 zone, I almost thought that Papa SB5457 was trolling me when he recommended this gun for us to try out on the gun guide. We had to spend much of the game in the Tier 2 zone just trying to get Pack-a-Punch 3 to make this gun viable, though it did redeem itself once it got to Pack-a-Punch 3. For those reasons, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to give this gun a 7.5 out of 10 when it comes to crowd control, and let's move on to bosses. This gun was definitely able to do some work against this non-bounty mega abomination. It was able to handle the crowds that was generated. It was able to do some decent damage to the mega abomination itself. We're going to give this gun a 7.5 against bosses. Let's move on to the build and the final rating. Alright, the build is up on screen for the Kastov 762. We are going to give this gun a final rating of 7 out of 10. This gun is nothing more than average inside of MWZ. There are worse weapons, there are better weapons, and that is going to do it for today's episode. Here are all the guns we featured in the episode today. If you would like to leave a comment down below which gun you would like to see featured next, hit that like button, hit that sub button, turn on those post notifications. My name is Cole Whip, and I'm out.